Welcome, everyone, to the Remedify Coaching Program podcast.
Great to be here.
Today, we are really embarking on a deep dive. We're exploring a fundamental source of, well, pretty much everything, right? Every moment of energy, every flash of insight.
Every beat of your potential, really.
Exactly. We're talking about that hidden engine room, the thing that dictates the quality of your life, your cellular power grid.
That's right. And our mission in this deep dive, it's to synthesize the most crucial knowledge we have about cellular energy and, its core component, the mitochondria.
Okay.
We've gathered a lot of great resources to give you, the listener, a roadmap. Not just for understanding these tiny organelles, but for actually optimizing them.
Optimizing them to drive real improvements.
Radical improvements, yeah. In your health, your longevity, it's foundational.
So maybe you're someone prepping for a big meeting, or maybe you're just trying to manage that chronic fatigue.
Or even pushing for peak physical performance.
Right. The answers aren't usually in some magic pill, are they? They're down at this microscopic level, the efficiency of your cells. So the big question we're tackling is, what truly powers everything you do? And crucially, how can we consciously step in and boost that power?
And the underlying principle is, well, it sounds simple, but it's profound. Health, energy, even how fast you age, it's the direct measurable sum of your collective mitochondrial strength.
The sum of their strength.
Yeah, think about infrastructure on a scale that's almost impossible to imagine. If those power plants are weak, the whole city, your body suffers. You get brownouts.
And that infrastructure, it's just vast. We're talking roughly 30 trillion human cells.
And inside those cells, maybe 100 quadrillion mitochondria. It's an astronomical number.
Wow. So that staggering number makes you basically the chief engineer of those 100 quadrillion power plants.
That's a great way to put it.
And our goal here in this deep dive is to give you the blueprints, the tools, everything you need to run that system, well, perfectly, or as close as we can get.
Absolutely. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's start by setting the scene. The resources use a really helpful analogy. If we think of your body as this sprawling, complex city,
All right.
and your cells are all the buildings, the houses, offices, factories, what provides that nonstop, reliable power, the power for everything?
It's these tiny, often bean-shaped organelles, the mitochondria. They are absolutely critical infrastructure.
Bean-shaped power plants?
Pretty much. And what's fascinating, they have their own unique DNA. It's circular, separate from the main DNA in the nucleus.
Which points to their ancient origins, right?
Yeah.
Like they were once independent?
Exactly. It suggests they were once free-living bacteria that formed a symbiotic relationship with our cells billions of years ago. And it's the sheer volume, that 100-plus quadrillion working together, that really defines your energy potential.
Okay, so their main job, making ATP. Now, for our listeners who are pretty clued in, we know ATP is adenosine triphosphate, but let's just reinforce why it's so vital. Why is it the universal energy currency?
Well, ATP is really the only energy molecule your cells can use immediately, right now. Whether it's a nerve impulse for thinking or a muscle needing to contract, it demands ATP. It's like your body takes in different fuels, think dollars, euros, yen, but the cellular machinery, it only accepts one specific token, the ATP coin.
That's clear. So the conversion process is basically food plus oxygen equals ATP plus water.
That's the core equation, yes. Taking pre-processed food, the fuel, and oxygen, the air, and converting it into ATP, usable energy, plus a very useful byproduct, water.
And this isn't just one simple step. The mechanics are apparently quite captivating. It's a meticulously organized 4-phase assembly line.
Exactly. 4 distinct phases.
Let's walk through this energy miracle. It all happens inside the mitochondria's structure, right? Because understanding the process helps us figure out where we can intervene most effectively.
Precisely. So we start with phase 1, fuel delivery. This mostly happens outside the mitochondria, actually, in the cell's main body, the cytosol. It's about prepping the raw materials.
Prepping the fuel.
Right. Complex carbs get broken down into glucose, which then becomes pyruvate. Fats are taken apart into fatty acids, then converted into something called acetyl-CoA. Proteins, well, amino acids, they get processed too and can jump into the cycle at different points.
So these specific molecules, pyruvate, acetyl-CoA, these are what the mitochondrion actually needs to start its engine.
Exactly. Those are the precise chemical forms that can enter the mitochondrion for the next stage.
Okay, fuel prepped.
Oh.
Phase 2, this happens inside the matrix, the sort of central fluid space.
That's right, inside the inner compartment, the matrix. Phase 2 is the famous Krebs cycle. You might also know it as the citric acid cycle.
Right.
This cycle takes those fuel intermediates, mainly acetyl-CoA, and systematically dismantles them. Now, it doesn't make a huge amount of ATP directly, just a tiny bit.
Okay, so what's its main job then?
Its critical output is producing huge numbers of energy carriers, molecules called NADH and FAD isoros. Think of these as molecular delivery trucks, absolutely loaded with high-energy electrons.
Electron delivery trucks.
Okay.
Got it.
And, as a side note, this is also where we release carbon dioxide, that waste product we breathe out.
Okay, so we've got these trucks loaded with potential energy, these electrons. Now they head into phase 3. The electron transport chain, the EPC, this runs along the inner membrane.
Yes, the inner mitochondrial membrane. And this is where those folds, the cristae, become incredibly important.
Ah, yes, the folds. Why are they so crucial?
Well, the cristae are these deep, wavy folds. If that inner membrane was just flat, energy production would just plummet.
Really?
Oh, yeah. These folds massively increase the surface area. Think of it like maximizing shelf space in a warehouse. More space means more room for the thousands of protein complexes that make up the ETC.
Okay, so more surface area, more machinery, and the electrons from NADH and FADH flow along this chain, like electricity.
Exactly like an electrical current, moving along a series of protein complexes embedded right there in the membrane.
And as the electrons move, they're doing work, pumping something.
Precisely. The energy released as electrons flow is immediately used to pump hydrogen ions, protons, from the matrix across that inner membrane into the space between the inner and outer membranes.
Pumping protons out.
Relentlessly pumping them out. This creates what we call the proton gradient. It's like pumping water uphill behind a massive hydroelectric dam. You build up immense pressure, immense stored potential energy.
So this gradient, this pressure difference, that's the real power source.
That is the immediate power source driving the final step. Yes, all that stored potential energy.
Which brings us to phase 4, the grand finale.
Phase 4 is all about a molecular machine called ATP synthase. Think of it as the power turbine at the base of the dam.
The turbine.
The protons, driven by that intense pressure gradient, rush back across the membrane, but they can only go through this specific channel, the ATP synthase molecule.
And that rush of protons does something.
It physically spins part of the ATP synthase molecule, like water spinning a turbine. And that mechanical rotational energy is captured. It's used to literally stick a phosphate group onto an ADP molecule, creating the high-energy bond in ATP.
Wow. So rotational energy becomes chemical energy.
It's one of the most amazing biochemical machines we know of. And critically, oxygen plays a vital role right at the very end of the electron transport chain.
Ah, oxygen. Why is it essential there?
Oxygen acts as the final electron acceptor. It mops up the electrons after they flowed down the chain. If oxygen isn't there, say during really intense exercise or suffocation, the electrons back up. The whole chain jams. Proton pumping stops. ATP production crashes.
But no oxygen, no efficient energy. That's why we breathe.
That's exactly why sustained efficient energy production absolutely requires oxygen.
It is genuinely astonishing, this microscopic, super efficient system replicating trillions of times every second inside us. It definitely puts that 3 p.m. energy slump into perspective, doesn't it?
It really does.
We're not just tired, we're experiencing like a partial grid failure.
That's the perfect analogy, and it's the key takeaway from this section. When your mitochondria, your power plants, are strong and numerous, you get high, stable energy, you get mental clarity, robust health.
And when they're weak,
you feel it immediately as fatigue. But more concerning is the long-term impact. Your capacity to repair damage, fight off infections, manage chronic diseases, it all decreases dramatically.
Okay, so if peak performance, peak health is the goal, we absolutely have to understand what degrades this incredible machinery. We need to identify the enemies causing these grid failures.
Right, and the sources frame this really well as metabolic stress, the systematic wear and tear on the inner mitochondrial system.
Metabolic stress.
And the research points to about 7 major culprits. We need to go beyond just listing them, though. You need to understand the specific damage they cause inside the mitochondria.
Let's start with the obvious one, perhaps. What we eat, junk food, and sugar overload.
Yeah, this seems straightforward, but the mechanism is important. It's not just about empty calories.
Right. So what is the mechanism? How does refined sugar actually damage mitochondria?
Well, when you flood your system with really rapidly absorbed fuels, like refined sugar or processed carbs, you force the mitochondria into overdrive. They try to process it all super quickly.
Okay.
This rapid processing demands a lot of oxygen, sometimes more than is immediately available locally, and it pushes electrons through the ETC too fast, leading to leaks.
Leaks, electron leaks.
Yeah, some electrons basically escape the chain prematurely. These rogue electrons then react instantly with oxygen molecules nearby, creating highly reactive molecules called reactive oxygen species, or ROS.
ROS, that's oxidative stress, right? The metabolic smoke.
Exactly, that's the metabolic smoke. And this smoke is chemically corrosive. It directly attacks the delicate, fatty membranes of the mitochondria, especially the inner membrane where the ETC lives. And perhaps most damagingly, it causes mutations in the mitochondrial DNA, the mtDNA.
So it damages the mitochondria's own instruction manual.
Precisely, which compromises the mitochondrion's ability to function properly, repair itself, and even replicate. So fast fuel leads to essentially faster rusting and breakdown of the machinery.
Fast fuel, fast rust. Got it. Okay, number 2, inactivity. The sedentary lifestyle. Now, this one still feels a bit counterintuitive to me. If mitochondria make energy, wouldn't resting save them?
That's a really common thought, but it's fundamentally about supply and demand. Mitochondria are governed by the energy demands placed on the cell.
Use it or lose it.
Exactly. Being sedentary sends a very clear signal. Energy needs are low. Why maintain these complex, energy-expensive power plants if you're only using, say, 10% of their potential capacity?
So the body downgrades.
The body responds by downgrading the infrastructure. Mitochondria undergo atrophy, they shrink, become less efficient. In some cases, the cell triggers mitophagy, which is basically recycling old or unnecessary mitochondria.
So you physically lose power plant capacity.
You physically diminish your potential. That's why even light activities can start feeling exhausting if you've been sedentary for a long time. Your grid just isn't big enough anymore. Exercise, on the other hand, shouts, "We need more power. Build more plants."
Makes sense. Okay, let's talk external assaults. Toxins. We live in a world full of them. Air pollution, stuff in plastics, smoking, vaping.
Right. Toxins often act as direct chemical assassins targeting the electron transport chain.
Assassins. How?
Well, many industrial chemicals, heavy metals like mercury or lead, pesticides, components of smoke, they can physically interfere with the protein complexes in the ETC. They might block complex 1 or complex 3, for example.
Blocking the flow of electrons.
Exactly. Preventing electrons from moving smoothly down the chain or disrupting that crucial proton pumping. This causes a major traffic jam, electrons back up, and guess what?
More electron leakage. More ROS.
Bingo. More oxidative stress. It's like throwing sand in the gears of the assembly line, a sustained poisoning effect.
Okay, grim. Next up, poor sleep. Our modern pace often means the repair shift gets canceled, right?
It does, and sleep is absolutely non-negotiable maintenance time. The sources really emphasize this. During those crucial 7 to 9 hours of quality deep sleep, your brain especially, and all your cells, run vital repair and cleanup crews.
Cleaning up metabolic waste.
Yes, clearing out accumulated metabolic debris, misfolded proteins, damaged components. And this includes mitochondrial quality control repairing damage, initiating mitophagy for mitochondria that are beyond repair.
So skipping sleep means you start the day with junk already piled up.
You start the day with an accumulated deficit. Your energy production is compromised from the get-go. This leads to that chronic low-level exhaustion that so many people just accept as normal. It's not normal.
Right, okay, and the last two are closely linked.
Yeah.
Chronic stress and then inflammation or infections.
Yeah, these often go hand in hand. Chronic stress is a really potent, sustained mitochondrial poison, mainly because of its hormonal effects. Primarily cortisol, yes. Constant low-grade anxiety, work pressure, relationship stress. It floods your system with cortisol. Now, cortisol is useful in short bursts, fight or flight, but chronically elevated cortisol degrades the integrity of cell membranes.
Including the mitochondrial membranes.
Including that crucial inner mitochondrial membrane where the ETC and ATP synthase are located. This disruption destabilizes the proton gradient.
So stress literally makes the dam leaky. It lets the pressure out.
That's a perfect way to think about it. It compromises the potential energy needed for phase 4 for making ATP efficiently.
Okay. And that hormonal chaos often comes with inflammation.
Very often. And whether that inflammation stems from the chronic stress itself, or maybe from gut issues, or an ongoing low-grade infection, or even an acute infection, it forces a cellular triage.
Triage, meaning?
Meaning the body diverts enormous amounts of energy ATP away from normal processes like thinking or muscle repair and channels it into fueling the immune response.
So the immune system hogs all the energy.
It becomes a massive energy drain. Mitochondria have to work overtime just to keep the immune cells powered up. This puts a huge strain on the entire system, leading to burnout and making everything else feel harder. Addressing these 7 damagers is absolutely the first step. You have to stop the damage before you can effectively build back better.
Okay, that sounds like a fair bit of potential damage we might need to undo. But as the research clearly shows, the body is incredibly resilient, right?
Absolutely. That's the really good news here. We can actively reverse these declines. The key is triggering a process called mitochondrial biogenesis,
Biogenesis meaning creating new ones.
creating new, stronger, and more numerous mitochondria, growing more power plants. This is the central focus of any real optimization strategy, and it relies on 4 absolutely indispensable pillars.
Right. Pillar 1 seems to be the big one. Exercise.
Exercise is the undisputed #1 signal for mitochondrial biogenesis. The principle is simple. If you consistently demand more energy than your current mitochondrial grid can comfortably supply, your cells trigger survival and adaptation mechanisms.
And the main adaptation is?
Build a bigger, better grid.
Now let's get into the nuance here, because different types of movement seem to achieve slightly different things for the mitochondria. This is something our listeners often appreciate.
Yes, the type of signal matters. Let's break it down. First, aerobic exercise, think sustained, moderate intensity activity like brisk walking, cycling, swimming, jogging.
Steady state cardio.
Right. This sends a steady, consistent signal primarily to increase mitochondrial number. You're essentially telling the city, we need more power plants distributed everywhere.
Okay, more plants? What about strength training? Lifting weights, body weight exercises.
Strength training primarily increases mitochondrial density within the muscle fibers being worked.
Density, meaning?
Meaning the existing power plants within those muscle cells become larger, more robust, packed with more of the ETC machinery. They become more powerful units, ready for higher peak loads.
Got it. More plants versus stronger plants. And then there are intervals. High-intensity interval training, or HIIT. These short, intense bursts followed by recovery seem to give the most dramatic efficiency boost. Why is that?
HIIE is so powerful because it briefly creates an acute state of oxygen deficit at the cellular level. When you push really hard for, say, 30 seconds, your muscles are demanding ATP so fast that the ETC starts running out of oxygen, that final electron acceptor we talked about.
Okay, a temporary oxygen shortage.
Exactly. This momentary stress, this intense survival challenge forces the cell to adapt very rapidly. The cellular machinery basically panics and says, whoa, we almost ran out of power. We need to get much more efficient.
And the response?
The response is a powerful upregulation of the genes and proteins needed to build new mitochondria that are specifically designed to be more efficient at using oxygen and producing ATP quickly. It's like an emergency upgrade signal for the grid.
That's a fantastic distinction. Okay, so making this actionable. The program sources mention things like the 15-minute strength fundamentals.
Right, things like bodyweight squats, push-ups, planks, glute bridges, focusing on building that density and strength.
And then the 5-minute interval sequence.
Yes, a classic example. 30 seconds of maximal effort sprinting, cycling hard, burpees, followed by maybe 90 seconds of very easy recovery. Repeat that just 4 or 5 times. That short sequence is enough to deliver that powerful biogenesis shock.
Okay, powerful stuff. Let's move to pillar 2, nutrition. Using clean fuel. We need food that provides the right parts for the machinery and also defends against that metabolic smoke, the ROS.
Exactly. The focus here has to be on nutrient density. We need the raw materials for the mitochondrial enzymes, and we need the antioxidants to protect the structures.
So what kind of foods are we talking about?
Foods that fuel well include lots of colorful vegetables. Think leafy greens, peppers, berries. They're packed with vitamins, minerals, and crucial antioxidants like polyphenols that protect those delicate mitochondrial membranes. We need healthy fats, avocado, nuts, seeds, olive oil. Remember, mitochondria themselves are largely built from fats and proteins, so quality fats are essential building blocks.
Right.
And then lean proteins, fish, poultry, legumes for repair and enzyme structure, alongside complex carbohydrates, things like quinoa, brown rice, sweet potatoes, oats for steady, sustained fuel delivery, avoiding those sugar spikes.
Can we drill down a bit on specific micronutrients? Are there particular vitamins or minerals that are direct players in the energy cycle?
Oh, absolutely. Several are critical cofactors, meaning they are essential helper molecules for the enzymes involved in the Krebs cycle and the ETC.
Like which ones?
B vitamins are huge, especially riboflavin, B2, and niacin B3, which are direct precursors to FADH and NADH, or electron carriers. Pantothenic acid B5 is key for forming acetyl-CoA. And magnesium. Magnesium is absolutely vital. It's involved in hundreds of reactions, but critically, it's essential for the stability and function of the ATP molecule itself and for the ATP synthase enzyme, the turbine. Without enough magnesium, that final step of energy production falters. You find it in leafy greens, nuts, seeds.
So even if you have the fuel, without these specific parts, the assembly line just slows right down.
Precisely. It bottlenecks. Conversely, the foods that fracture the system are the ones we know. Refined sugars, processed carbs that hit the system too fast, unhealthy trans fats that damage membranes, and excessive alcohol, which is a direct mitochondrial toxin.
Okay, so to make this practical day-to-day, the sources recommend the power plate formula. Can you describe that?
Yeah, it's a great visual guide. For every main meal, aim to fill half your plate with colorful, non-starchy vegetables. Think salads, broccoli, cauliflower, spinach.
Half the plate veggies. Got it.
Then about a quarter of your plate with high-quality protein, fish, chicken, eggs, beans, lentils.
Quarter protein.
And the remaining quarter with complex carbohydrates. Quinoa, sweet potato, brown rice, maybe some fruit. And don't forget to add healthy fats, maybe olive oil dressing, some avocado, a sprinkle of nuts or seeds.
That balance sounds key. It prevents the sugar spikes and provides that steady fuel.
Exactly. It promotes stable blood sugar and gives the mitochondria the sustained, clean energy they prefer.
All right. Pillar 3, sleep and recovery. We touched on this in the damage section, but its role in building is crucial too. The mandated repair time.
It's absolutely critical for consolidation and repair. This is when we clear out the metabolic smoke, ROS, generated during the day's energy production. Deep sleep phases are essential for clearing waste products from the brain and allowing cellular repair mechanisms, including mitochondrial repair and mitophagy, to happen efficiently.
So the mission here is?
The mission is strict consistency. Aim for 8 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night. But quality heavily depends on regularity. Maintaining a consistent sleep-wake time, even on weekends, is huge. It anchors your circadian rhythm.
And circadian rhythm directs mitochondrial activity.
It strongly influences the timing of mitochondrial energy production cycles and their repair phases. Disrupting that rhythm disrupts mitochondrial function. And of course, the standard advice. Turn off screens, especially bright ones, at least 30 minutes, ideally an hour before bed. That blue light suppresses melatonin, which is critical for initiating deep restorative sleep.
Makes sense. Okay, finally, pillar 4, stress control. This directly fights back against that cortisol damage we discussed.
Exactly. Managing chronic stress is cellular protection. We can't eliminate all stressors, that's unrealistic, but we absolutely can manage our physiological response to stress.
Oh, what are the actionable steps?
Incorporating simple daily practices can make a huge difference. Things like deep diaphragmatic breathing exercises, just 5 minutes, can interrupt the stress cascade. Or spending 10 minutes practicing mindfulness or meditation, even a quiet walk in nature.
And the mechanism is lowering cortisol and inflammation.
Precisely. By dampening that flood of damaging stress hormones and reducing systemic inflammation, you create an internal environment that's conducive to mitochondrial health, repair, and biogenesis, rather than one that's constantly promoting degradation. It helps keep the pressure stable in that proton dam.
Okay, knowing these 4 pillars, exercise, nutrition, sleep, stress management, is fantastic. But let's be real, implementation is where the magic happens, or doesn't.
Absolutely. Knowledge isn't power until it's applied.
Which is where the 10-week mitochondrial optimization program comes in. This is framed as the practical roadmap, right? Translating all this science into scalable, sustainable habits.
Exactly. And a really central goal of this structured program is to help you achieve true metabolic flexibility.
Metabolic flexibility, we touched on that, but let's dive deeper. What does that mean in practice?
Well, think about how most people operate, especially on a standard modern diet. They're often metabolically rigid. Their cells are primarily programmed to burn glucose, sugar, often inefficiently. This leads to those energy spikes, followed by crashes and constant cravings.
The blood sugar roller coaster.
Precisely. Metabolic flexibility, on the other hand, is your cell's ability to efficiently switch between fuel sources based on availability and demand. To smoothly burn glucose when it's there, but just as easily switch to burning fatty acids from your body fat stores, or even ketones if you're adapting to lower carbs.
So if you're more flexible, your body can just tap into those huge fat reserves for energy, meaning more stable energy throughout the day.
Exactly. Stable, sustained energy. Less reliance on constant snacking. Reduced cravings. Getting rid of that horrible hanger feeling when you miss a meal. You become much more energy resilient because you're not just dependent on that next sugar hit.
Okay, I can see why that's a major goal.
Uh-huh.
And the 10-week program is designed to progressively nudge your system towards that flexibility.
Yes, by systematically applying the 4 pillars in increasing levels of, let's say, challenge and refinement over the 10 weeks.
And the program uses a weekly template focusing on 3 areas, A, B, and C.
That's right. To keep things clear and manageable, each week has targets across. A, movement exercise, B, nutrition and cellular fuel, and C, recovery and protection, which covers sleep and stress.
Okay, let's walk through the progression. How does it build? Weeks 1 to 3. Foundation. What's the focus?
Weeks 1 to 3 are all about establishing the non-negotiables, building consistency. So for movement A, it might be committing to 30 minutes of moderate aerobic activity, like a brisk walk 4 times a week. Just getting the signal started without overwhelming the system.
Okay. Nutrition B.
The foundational step is usually drastically reducing or eliminating processed sugars and refined carbs, getting off the roller coaster, forcing the body to start looking for cleaner, steadier fuel sources.
And recovery C.
Simply locking in a consistent 7 to 8 hours of sleep opportunity each night, making sleep a priority. It's about building that solid base layer.
Makes sense. Then weeks 4 to 6. Progression. Things ramp up.
Yes, here we increase the intensity and focus on the quality of the inputs more. For movement A, aerobic time might increase to 45 or 50 minutes, still 4 times a week. And crucially, we introduce those interval sessions, maybe that 5-minute sequence twice a week, to really start triggering that efficiency-boosting biogenesis.
Okay, adding intensity. Nutrition B.
Nutrition moves beyond just avoiding the bad stuff to actively incorporating the good stuff, focusing on getting enough of those key cofactors we talked about, be vitamins, magnesium, antioxidants, through deliberate food choices, loading up on leafy greens, berries, nuts, seeds.
And recovery C in this phase.
Solidifying that consistent bedtime and wake-up time, aiming for higher sleep quality, really dialing in the circadian rhythm aspect.
Right. And the final push, weeks 7 to 10. Optimization. This sounds like where we really challenge the system.
This is peak training for your mitochondria. Movement A might hit a goal of 60 minutes of aerobic work 4 times a week, plus keeping the strength and interval sessions consistent. We're building maximal capacity and efficiency.
And nutrition B gets more challenging.
Here's where we might gently challenge metabolic flexibility. For example, trying one intentionally lower carbohydrate meal per day. Maybe swapping out the usual potatoes or rice for a double portion of roasted vegetables with healthy fats. This encourages the cells to get better at burning fat for fuel.
Teaching the cells flexibility. Okay. And recovery.
This phase might deepen the recovery practices. Incorporating that 10 minutes of daily mindfulness or breathing exercises becomes non-negotiable, actively managing stress hormones. And ensuring at least 1, maybe 2, dedicated rest days from intense exercise per week becomes even more important for adaptation and avoiding burnout.
That gradual phased approach seems really crucial. Trying to jump straight to week 10 levels would probably backfire for most people.
Absolutely. Burnout or injury is a real risk if you push too hard too fast. This systematic progression allows the body and the mitochondria to adapt sustainably. It builds resilience layer by layer.
Speaking of knowing if it's working, how do we actually track progress? Mitochondrial changes are invisible, right?
They are, but their effects are very noticeable. Tracking is key for motivation and making adjustments. We recommend using simple, subjective 1-10 scales for key metrics.
Like what?
Like energy levels throughout the day, how stable and high, mood and mental clarity, how sharp and focused do you feel, sleep quality, how rested and refreshed do you wake up, and exercise endurance, how much easier does that standard workout feel compared to last week?
So rating yourself on these regularly gives you tangible feedback.
Exactly. Seeing your energy level score go from a 4 to a 7 over a few weeks is incredibly motivating. It provides that immediate positive reinforcement that keeps you engaged with the program.
Okay, we have covered a huge amount of ground here, from the nitty-gritty of ATP production right up to a 10-week plan. For listeners who are thinking, okay, I want the details, I want the plan, where can they go?
This is where the resources come in.
If you want to access the full workbook, the detailed 10-week breakdown, those workout samples like the 15-minute strength routine, the tracking tools, basically continue your journey as the chief engineer of your cellular power. You can find the complete guide and the full plan at the Remedify Coaching Program website.
That's right. For everyone ready to translate this knowledge into real high-impact action, just visit https://website.beacons.aak2020. You can dive much deeper into all these strategies there and really start your own phase 1 transformation.
Perfect. Now, before we wrap up, let's tackle the real world. This sounds like a significant commitment. Life happens. What do the resources suggest for probably the most common hurdle? I just don't have time.
Yes, the no-time monster. Often it's less about a true lack of minutes and more about a scheduling or priority issue. The key solution offered is using workout snacks.
Workout snacks.
Yeah, if you genuinely can't find a single 45 or 60-minute block, break it up. Can you find 2 25-minute slots? Or even 6 10-minute bursts of activity throughout the day? A quick set of squats and push-ups here, a brisk walk around the block there. It all adds up mitochondrially.
So accumulate the stimulus.
Exactly. And the other crucial part is scheduling. You have to treat exercise like an essential meeting or appointment. Block it out in your calendar. It's non-negotiable health infrastructure maintenance, not optional.
Good point. Okay, what about low motivation? Especially maybe in those middle weeks, 4, 5, 6, when the initial excitement wears off, but it still feels hard.
This is where that tracking becomes so powerful. The sources really emphasize shifting focus from the huge, distant end goal, be super fit, to celebrating the small daily wins.
Noticing the immediate benefits.
Yes, actively noticing, wow, I do feel clearer after that 10-minute mindfulness break, or my energy was much more stable today after sticking to the power plate formula. Use those 1 to 10 scales to capture that positive feedback. Accountability partners can also help some people, sharing your goals and progress. But ultimately, internalizing that immediate, I feel better when I do this feedback loop is what builds intrinsic long-term motivation. #outro.
Well, we have certainly taken a deep dive today into the absolute bedrock of your physical and mental energy. To kind of summarize the core actions, the maintenance plan for your 100 quadrillion power plants, it really comes back to that mitochondrial manifesto, doesn't it?
It does. Feed them well clean, nutrient-dense fuel. Exercise them regularly, give them the signals to grow stronger and more numerous. Rest them deeply, allow for that crucial nightly repair and cleanup. And protect them, shield them from the corrosive effects of chronic stress and environmental toxins.
Feed, exercise, rest, protect. Simple but profound.
And maybe here's a final provocative thought to leave everyone with. Think about the ripple effect.
Ripple effect.
Yeah. When you commit to optimizing your cellular energy, the impact goes way beyond just your personal health metrics, your weight, or your performance. You're enhancing your cognitive resilience, your ability to handle stress, your mood stability. This improved energy inevitably influences how you show up in your relationships, your work, your community.
So better mitochondria, better interactions.
In a very real way, yes. Your energy influences everything. So this whole process, it's fundamentally about maximizing your potential to contribute, to connect, to create. It really isn't just about adding more years to your life, though that's likely a byproduct. It's about adding more life, more vibrancy, more capacity to the years you have.
That's a powerful way to frame it. Adding life to your years, not just years to your life. A perfect articulation of why this deep work matters. So to explore the full depth of this program one last time, get the quick reference guide, the maintenance checklists, all the tools you need to implement this and stay on track, where should people visit?
Head over to https://website.beacons.aak2020. Everything we've discussed is laid out there in practical detail.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing all that insight.
My pleasure. It's fascinating stuff.
It really is. And thank you all for listening to the Remedify Coaching Program podcast. We hope this deep dive empowers you to truly become the chief engineer of the most efficient, most vibrant version of yourself.